Welcome back, everybody. We are coming at you live from Canada Life Centre here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. It's a Flame Tech Football Friday. Very excited to be joined by our good friend Andrew Paterson, the star of Winnipeg Sports Talk, Hustler. How you doing, Huss?
Rod, it's great to see you. I was just saying, this is the first time I've done one of these interviews in person in like 7 or 8 months.
I'm glad that I could be the first in 7 months.
I'll tell you what, it's great to have you guys here in the Peg. We've got a big football game tonight, the exciting lacrosse event happening, and of course you guys walked by a huge day for the city and the Jets organization with the announcement of the Dale Hawerchuk statue. You picked a good day to come to the Peg.
It's a wonderful day to be in Winnipeg. There's absolutely no doubt about that. By the way, our poll question, I don't know if you heard us talking earlier, was who's the biggest Winnipeg sports icon? And our options were Bobby Hull, Dale Hawerchuk, Ken Plain, and Milt Stegall. You'd be the guy to ask. Somebody wrote in and said, Evander Kane? Patrolman Pete. So there's some funny, put-on-bump. Did we get the right four?
Well, I mean, I guess if you're going to all-time pro sports icons, I mean, those would be, we had a funny conversation on the show coming out of the big win on Friday for our women's national soccer team at the Olympics. And we were speaking about Winnipeg people. And Terry Sawchuk, of course, had an incredible career, older, very different generation, and his career ended early. But, I mean, you've got Jonathan Taves, you've got Cindy Klassen, you've got Clara Hughes, and now Desiree Scott with her gold medal, 3 medals in a global sport that captured this country. I mean, Desiree's right up there as well, certainly amongst this current generation. So I guess it's somewhat of a different question. But, the 4 that you mentioned for all-time contributions here in the city of Winnipeg as pros, pretty good group.
Did you mention Jennifer Jones? Did you mention her in the group?
Well, Jennifer Jones, this was a big part of the conversation.
Right.
I mean, Jen Jones certainly is in the mix.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're going with 4, I mean, who are we taking out? That's one of these great sports radio conversations,
isn't it?
That we can get going for a long time.
And a great, to have so many options is a great thing for Winnipeg. Right now, listen, I got to get your take on the betting and the CFL, because I'm saying the BC Lions are ruining sports betting. Is that too hot of a take?
I'll tell you what. If you're betting the CFL, they're probably on your suspended list going into week 3. I mean, how are you supposed to take seriously what the BC Lions are saying when you're going to go get your ticket ready for the weekend? Listen, for people that are betting the CFL, it's important to note that the first couple of weeks have been very strange. With all the excitement about sports betting and the growth of it and the legalization of single-game wagering, it's been impossible to find a damn line for these games, but I get it. Yeah. I mean, the bookmakers, Rod, have been in a big staring contest with each other, waiting to see who puts out the line. I mean, some of the biggest, most reputable books right now, even this morning before I came in, hadn't put out a line for the Bombers and Argos. That game is tonight. That's going to change going into the next couple weeks, so I think, bettors will have the information earlier. But as far as the BC Lions go, I mean, how do you trust what's happening with BC even an hour before the game? I mean, they've started their number 2 guy on the depth chart the last 2 games right now. And I know Mike Riley doesn't really care, and I'm not sure whether Rick Campbell cares. They're probably happier that they got a big win last night in Calgary. But it's certainly an issue for the Canadian Football League, because if you want people to have the trust that the information they're getting has the integrity that gives them the confidence to make an educated decision on whatever side they are, they will do that. If they don't believe that's there, they're probably going to shy away, certainly from the BC Lions for the next little while.
Well, my take on that is that Rick Campbell does not care. Clearly, he just wants to win a football game. He almost did at Saskatchewan. He did last night, but I'm thinking, Rick, you might want to pay a little more attention to this, because this is what's going to get you paid and get you a raise in the future. This is about the future of the Canadian Football League.
Well, no, 100%. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's very important that they get on side and essentially give us the style of information we get every week from the NFL injury reports and actually give us legit information. As far as Rick Campbell goes, I mean, is he even running the show there? It certainly didn't look like he was in week 1. I mean, that scene of him doing the halftime interview, talking about how, it just wasn't going to work today. It's in the best interest of the team if work starts. And they literally pan out to the field, and 13 is running up behind center. I mean, you couldn't write it. Listen, it seemed a little bit ridiculous. If I'm in the CFL front office, I'm not too pleased with it. But I think it's going to be a bit of a process right now. This is different, and God knows. I mean, I'm thinking, and what happens with hockey as they get towards it. I mean, the upper body and lower body injuries. The NFL has been the the guideline essentially for how this works. It's the biggest sport when you're talking about sports wagering. It's football and everything else. There's a huge opportunity for the Canadian Football League to benefit from this and get more fans and more people paying attention to the games. But it will be a real negative if people think that, they're going into games thinking one thing and then realizing that one of the CFL teams in their mind pulled a fast one on them and now they're sitting with a bet on the bad line.
2 straight weeks.
Back to back.
2 straight weeks they've done it. Okay, I would love to go further down this road, but we do have Bombers Argos tonight. You said that I can't find the lines either from where I normally go, the betting lines. What would you set it at tonight? Can I go first? Winnipeg, 2.5. Favorite.
You know what? Keep in mind that the home team generally gets 3 points for being home. So, essentially, if that's the case, that would mean that on a neutral field, the Argos would be a half-point favorites. So I wouldn't go that far. I would think that the Bombers would be sort of 3-point favorites on a neutral field. So you add the 3 points, and we were looking in and around 6. I think I did see a line earlier in this week that was 6.5. And to be honest with you, I think I'm going to take the points. I do like the Bombers to win this game. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're the top dogs and had a great game. But, man, I was impressed with the Toronto Argonauts. I thought this would be a work in progress that would take a while to bring all these new faces and free agents together. But it was really cool to see former Bomber QB Ryan Dinwiddie out there. A lot of passion on the sidelines. And his team stepped up and did it. So, if that number is in and around 6.5, I think this is going to be a great football game. I think it'll be, it'll be in doubt in the fourth quarter, and I'll probably take the points if that is the case. But I'm feeling pretty good about the Bombers getting it out. This should be a great one tonight on Friday Night Football.
Have you ever had Johnny Avello on your shows? Do you know Johnny Avello?
Johnny's the best. The Godfather, man. One of the most legendary bookmakers in the industry all time.
Ask him about that 3.5 home thing because he says that's a misnomer. He doesn't go by that. Ask him the next time you're talking to him. But I got the Argos to win tonight for a couple of reasons. I think they're very good. Number one, they've got less injuries. Like, how much does the absence of Andrew Harris and Darvin Adams really hurt the Winnipeg Blue Bombers? It didn't, I guess, last week, but...
One more than the other, and I'll bet, the common people might think the other, but it's Darvin Adams. To me, Darvin Adams is the guy that, is such a game changer in that Bomber offense with a real legitimate deep threat that really connected with Zach Collaros. The Andrew Harris situation's fascinating, Rod. I have a feeling that from an organizational standpoint, even with the time off and less wear and tear on some of these players, 34 years old with a lot of tread off the tire, if you know what I'm saying. And the fact that he wasn't able to go through training camp, they already, and credit to Kyle Walters for, when you're leaning on a Canadian in such an important position, the way they have Andrew Harris, you needed to have a succession plan. And I think we saw it in week 1 with Brady Oliveira. And, of course, Johnny Augustine's there as well. So, you'd be a person. We were talking about this the other day. Can you remember a team that went in and had exclusively Canadian running backs in the Canadian Football League?
It's been a very long time. Even with John Cornish in Calgary, they didn't have a Canadian backup. When he got hurt, they had to move somebody around somewhere else. I think BC Lions, I'm going to go back, Sean Millington, when he was their number one guy. And was Robert Drummond Canadian? Can somebody help me out with that? Remember Robert Drummond?
I don't think that he was.
Well, they're so rare, the Canadian backs, right? I'm thinking Sean Millington days with the BC Lions and whomever his backup was. And Volpe?
This is the way the Bombers are doing it right now. Yeah. And then they drafted the kid from Regina that went back to school,
Kyle Borsa,
who kind of seems to be the next man up as they go through. So it's interesting. It's given them some options to do it. But I guess my point being is that as great as Andrew Harris is and has been arguably the most impactful free agent signing ever for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, it was next man up in week 1, and Brady Oliveira balled out. And I'm not sure that the running game, when you've got an offensive line like that, Rod, there's a lot of guys that'll be able to move the chains, and certainly they dominated in the fourth quarter. 4 straight runs for 10 yards, moving the chains. That is how you finish off a team the way they did. I think the Bomber offense will look considerably different or a little bit more deadly when Darvin Adams gets in there. But I think Brady Oliveira is going to be able to do quite a bit of what Andrew Harris normally does for the Bombers if Andrew Harris is out for an extended period of time.
When you think about it, it's the term complementary football. They managed to beat Hamilton, who was favored going into that game last week, and Hamilton did not play well. So I'm interested to see what happens tonight. It didn't hurt that Willie Jefferson came up with a pick. Willie's doing Willie things. They're still the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're a good team. Have they been overlooked a little bit in this country, do you think?
Well, Hey, they won it. The party didn't stop here for a number of months. But going into this season, I think a lot of people went back to, the Hamilton Tiger Cats are the best team in the league, and then you've got a bunch of other squads. I think we sometimes spend too much time, and this is the fantasy world that we live in, and hey, I'm a huge part of that, so I'll take some of the blame, but focusing on all the skill positions. When the Winnipeg Blue Bombers won that Grey Cup in 2019, on the back of dominance on the line of scrimmage. They were the 9th passing team in the CFL in 2019.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not the way you write up a Grey Cup champion. But they got it done. So I think people maybe overlooked a little bit their true strengths and how important those are. But again, the quarterback situation, very different this year. Zach Collaros looked great, and he's going to be protected by an elite offensive line. But, man, if something happens to Zach Collaros, it's not like before where you had Nichols and you had Strevler and you had some level of confidence that both guys could come in. No offense to Sean McGuire, but I think he's thrown 3 passes in the Canadian Football League. So in Zach we trust here in Winnipeg. And
I love it because I love Zach. Sorry to cut you off, but I think every team's like that. Most teams are like that, right? Their number one guy goes down, look out. But Zach's carrying the mail, and I love him for it. I can't interview you and not talk about the Jets, okay? And so, listen, the Montreal series was over with a Scheifele hit. Right down here, eh? Which net was it? This one right here?
This one right there.
That killed the series, don't you think?
Yeah, in retrospect, yeah. I mean, and it's tough to say it was just that play because, to be honest, injuries happen, and if you want to be a team that contends and pushes through, you have to be able to, to get past. But your number one center would be like if Connor Hellebuck went down, you're really, really up against it. And with Pierre-Luc Dubois' struggles last year, I mean, they weren't able to make up for the loss of Mark Scheifele. But I will say this: I think they learned a number of things about their team that needed to be fixed. And I got to tell you, I mean, you tell me, has there been a general manager that did more to fix what his team needs than Kevin Cheveldayoff?
Absolutely not.
I mean, we jokingly put up the offseason champions banners on Winnipeg Sports Talk a couple weeks ago after the trades. And then you think about this week getting Neil Pionk done at 4 years. And Andrew Klopp signing the 1-year deal yesterday. I mean, it really did seem like the writing on the wall that was what was going to happen. But I honestly think that's the best case scenario for both the team and the player, in that he's coming back to a team that he knows has a much better chance to win. And while the money wasn't there for him to get what he thought he deserved on a long-term deal, he's going to be paid fairly this year. He'll be on a good team, hopefully with the opportunity to show what he can do, especially with a nice run in the playoffs, and then cash in as an unrestricted free agent in the prime of his career. So Kopp's been betting on himself the entire time. He'll do it again this year. And the fact that they were able to bring back pretty much the entire core of that team, minus Mason Appleton that went to the Kraken, add Brendan Dillon, add Nate Schmidt. I can't remember this amount of excitement around the actual team on the ice since the team came back, to be honest. I think 2011 was, hey, the team is back, we've got a team, and it was just, magical. Right now, with the additions on the blue line and the talent that the team already had up front, and with one of the best goalies on the planet, Jet fans are fired up for the upcoming season. And the approval ratings of Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think, have never been higher.
Well, I'm glad that they got over being swept by Montreal fairly fast. And by the way, I go back to the Scheifele thing. I do think one play can change a series. Ask Marc-Andre Fleury and Canada's team, the Vegas Golden Knights, if one play can change a series. But we're not going to talk about that today. Hustler, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for coming down here, my man. Appreciate it.
Rod, you at the game tonight?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Are you kidding me? That's why I came here.
We will see you there. Thanks so much for having me, as always.
Thanks, Huss.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.